So it all started in 1972 when one law flipped the script and changed the course of history. This is Title IX Triumphs, powered by GEICO. You see, post-World War II, women were forging a new path. Rosie the Riveter became an iconic symbol for working women. As women hit the workforce, they also found their way into recreational sports. But of course, those opposed to gender equality deemed it too dangerous for women to participate at, dare I say, a competitive level. In this series, we're going to be highlighting a lot of athletic greats, but one woman who can't be overlooked is a political giant from Hawaii, a representative named Patsy Mink, who built her career around causes that benefited women and minorities. In fact, Patsy was so instrumental in creating the Title IX law that they went on to name it after her following her death in 2002. Patsy, you're the greatest of all time, and we thank you. That'll take us into the 1980s, where the boom of women's sports was just getting warmed up. We're into the 1980s, where after President Nixon signed Title IX into law, it was open season for women in sport. You can't speak or even think about women trailblazers without highlighting Jackie Joyner-Kersee, a track and field star who broke records. No, seriously, there's a whole book and everything. Now, dribbling on over into basketball, Pamela McGee commanded the court. A pioneer for women's basketball, McGee changed the game, playing alongside her twin sister, Paula. Talk about double trouble. She also won gold in the 1984 games and was the second overall pick in the WNBA ever. And just when you thought she was done leaving her mark on the game, both her son and daughter were drafted into the league. The list is endless of those who made an impact in the first decade of Title IX's passing. We love the 90s. 1996 was called Summer of the Women, as they all should be. But here's why. It was a breakthrough for women's sports figures. All of these women were first-generation athletes who benefited from Title IX, like Amy Van Dyken, a 6-time medal-winning Hall of Fame swimmer who took home 4 golds in the 96 Olympics alone. Then, over on the pitch, there was Julie Foudy, a 2-time FIFA Women's World Cup soccer champion and 2-time gold medalist. Over in gymnastics, all eyes were on the women's team, the Magnificent Seven. Carrie Strug managed to stick her landing despite an ankle injury, helping the U.S. win their first team gold. And then, of course, there was Dominique Dawes, aka Awesome Dawson, the first black woman of any nationality to win gold in gymnastics, opening the doors for many of our faves like Gabby Douglas and Simone Biles. You might know them. New sports were added to the games too, like softball. That's where Lisa Fernandez and Dot Richardson come into play. 1996 set the tone for the next generation. The girls had grit, grace, and gold. Above all, something big was on the horizon. Women's professional sports leagues were born. Y2K was like a moment of independence. Female athletes were sweeping gold, and women's professional leagues were alive, sending society a clear message that it was time for the nation to invest in intercollegiate and women's professional sports. Taking it down to Tennessee, Candace Parker was dominating the hardwood, winning 2 national championships and becoming the first woman to dunk in an NCAA tournament game. She then went on to be the first overall pick in the WNBA draft, winning MVP and Rookie of the Year. And if you don't know this next name, you should. Katie Ledecky, the 3-time Olympian, swam her way into 10 Olympic medals. A fish? A mermaid? Then there was the dynamic duo of Misty May Traynor and Carrie Walsh Jennings. These girls brought their own sand to the beach, winning gold medals in beach volleyball. Since Title IX, we've seen women's sports transform over the last 50 years. That's because we're no longer asking for change, we're creating it. Take Sedona Prince, for example, the women's basketball player who went viral after pointing out the differences between the men's and women's weight rooms. Another example is the U.S. women's soccer team. With 4 Women's Cup world titles, the big cups did not come with big bucks. It's been a years-long battle for the team, demanding pay equity. This was the first year that the women's basketball tournament was named March Madness, March Madness has been going on for 80 years? I mean, seriously? It's obvious that there's power in numbers. These women are top athletes, but more importantly, bosses, proving that it's time to level the playing field and the paying field. We've seen history transform from one generation to the next. Over the last 50 years, our heroes have triumphed under Title IX. But as always, there's more ground to cover and more barriers to break. Switch today and see all the ways you could save.